So hopefully everyone is okay with being recorded. Actually, nothing you say will be recorded because everyone actually is muted right now and has their video turned off. So it shouldn't affect anybody. It's just going to capture what's on the slide, anything that I say. So let's get started. So yes, as I just mentioned, that everyone will remain muted on this webinar and have their videos turned off. This will help keep noise down and the quality of the video up. I recognize not everyone has high-speed internet, and even just a simple Zoom webinar with one person presenting can be difficult. So yes, please, well, you're automatically muted. If you have something to say, please share your questions or comments in the chat box. So most of you will see a chat box on the bottom of your screen. It may have popped up already to be a little sidebar. If not, click where it says chat. Usually again along the bottom of your screen, there's a little box that says chat, and type your questions in there or any comments you have. And at the very end, a couple moderators, several different Pollination Guelph board members who are also participating right now, and who will actually sort of forward any questions to me as they come. So I'm just figuring something out. Again, first time doing this, so I'm just trying to get things organized. So yeah, so we're going to record this at the end and post it to YouTube. We had a number of people say they weren't able to make it live, so we'll actually post it to YouTube so people can watch it later on. Or if you something you couldn't remember what exactly we said, again, we'll just put it on YouTube. You can watch it at your own leisure. So it's kind of the idea of the background of this presentation is the fact we often get comments, something along the lines of, hey, you guys are so amazing and inspirational. How can we do the same thing in, Brampton, Mississauga, Caledon, wherever, Barrie? How can we do the same thing in our community? So we thought we'd take this opportunity to go through different ways that you can sort of engage with people and start helping spread the word about how awesome and amazing pollinators are. And we do this through different ways. We've actually been doing a lot of outreach over the last decade and a half. I just prepared the slide for earlier in the year for our presentation at the symposium, which was unfortunately canceled. But it's kind of neat to see and reflect back on how much we actually have done over the last, again, 13, 14 years. We've given over 86 different presentations, hosted over 54 different events, including our annual one-day symposium. We had displays at over 105 other events. Had 165 plus sort of print media mentions, so everything from CBC and CTV through to our local papers like the Guelph Mercury. We've had over 8 different unique radio and television interviews. Our email list is always growing, but when I pulled these stats back kind of end of the 2019 time period, we had 880 different people on our mailing list. And we've also been trying to increase our social media reach. So we've been having ever-increasing posts on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. So we're getting more and more people following us in that way. And more people are following us in this way. Rather than email, there seems to be a shift towards social media sharing. So hopefully you are following us on one of these channels, and so you can sort of share in our adventures and share the information that we share with your own audiences. We also had many countless planting and maintenance events to have, again, throughout the province, mostly Southern Ontario is where our sort of planting events are happening. So I'll go through some of these different outreach activities that we do, as well as some other ideas on how you can make a difference in your own communities. So kind of a quick summary of the different ways that you can engage and educate and communicate with others. And these are the different sort of subject areas I'll go through with my presentation. So first off is the direct communication. There's community events, planting events. You can do tours and hands-on activities, both at your own properties and other sites, plant sales and seed swaps, presentations, conferences involving others, particularly the government, advocacy work, media, signage, new audiences. And again, the column keeps going, and I'll keep going through this throughout my presentation. So stay tuned for all the different things, and so make notes as you go along if you'd like. And remember, the chat box is there if you have any questions, if you have your own stories you want to share. Maybe you found a great way of engaging with people, or want to share your own stories on how well a certain event has worked, or a way of advocating that worked really well for you. So the most obvious way of communicating with people is direct communication. And this is through emails, through social media. If you happen to have a newsletter, you might send out a physical newspaper, hard copy, to people in the community if you're a small local organization. I mentioned we do Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and these sites are becoming more and more common. Our website we keep updating. We actually been updating quite a bit in the last year. We have a couple new board members on board who are really keen and helping to add new sites and new pages. So check out our website if you haven't been on there recently. We have resources on there ranging from how to make nests for pollinators to the best plants for pollinators, even things like the amount of action you can take and how to identify bees and that kind of thing. So direct communication is kind of the obvious way, getting your message out there. But it involves people being aware of you and already following you. So sometimes you're going to go beyond that direct communication. One great way of meeting people that you might not already meet in your direct face-to-face actions is community events. And this is, again, getting out of the community. It doesn't have to be your own event. You can sort of jump in with other people. There's all sorts of fall fairs, farmers markets, Seedy Saturday events. There's something like in London, the Go Wild, Grow Wild event. There's opportunities to get out into the public where you just have a booth, Canada Day activities. We had garden expos, garden tours. Find organizations in your community that have sort of similar interests as you and see if they're having an event that you can sort of put a booth up at. And you can have presentations at this event or simply information or static information displays. So again, you'll see a number of pictures here. We have our table with our outreach displays. We usually have a box. For instance, this gentleman down here is a young child looking at our bee display. So we have these different, well, actually a live, well, usually not a live bumblebee nest, though we have had live bumblebee nests, but a sort of dead bumblebee nest with the bees right attached on top. So people can see what a bumblebee nest actually looks like. We'll often have these sort of static insect displays, these sort of pinned insects. Again, people can be drawn up to look at them and see what's going on. So these are people at community events, like in farmers markets or any other events, and they just happen to be able to stop and see what you're talking about and have a chance to interact with you and you with them. Planting events are another great way of getting people involved. People love to get out and get their hands dirty. So we have pictures here of kids through young adults and even the seniors are all out planting. You can do this again on your own sites if you have property that you're able to do, or perhaps even sites that you can partner with. And I'll talk about partnering later on in this presentation. You can get people out through different youth groups. For example, I had Girl Guides out at one of our planting events, people from different organizations. We had Trees for Guelph out, we sort of partnered with them, Healthy Landscapes for the city of Guelph. So these things you can advertise. Advertise on, again, all your media channels, reach out to the regular sort of journalistic newspapers to see if they can run a story or a feature on you. We've been pretty good about getting local media out. They actually love these types of events. The people, again, being active in their community and really being engaged in the interests of conservation in our case, the conservation of pollinators. It's also a way of people being able to expose to new areas. Maybe they didn't know you had a planting a gulf. Maybe they didn't know you had a pollinator garden down the street from them. And this way that you can say, hey, we're having a planting event at our pollinator garden. This is at XYZ Street. And say, hey, that's cool. I didn't know there's a pollinator garden here. Yeah, I want to get involved and go help the pollinators by doing some plantings. And if you didn't know, we actually have 8 different pollinator habitat sites in Guelph that we've been involved with. So we have everything from the north end of Guelph, which is the Eastview Landfill Pollinator Park, which again, sort of Watson, Speedville area, through to south end, the Clare Road Emergency Services Center, and sort of points in between, Riverside Park, Guelph Hydro, Trans-Canada Trail, Guelph Food Forest, and also the Gosling Gardens at the Guelph Hospice. So most of these sites are publicly accessible, so we encourage people to get out to our sites. And again, this is ways of encouraging people to get involved, that maybe they can't go out to a planting event with you, but they can go check out these sites themselves on their own time. We're also going to be putting more and more information about our sites on our websites, so that we'll have a map up there and some more details, information like what plants are we including there. So check out our sites here in Guelph if you haven't already, and even if you do know where these sites are, the more times you visit them, you always see something different. I was out at one of our gardens last night actually, and it's interesting to see new flowers are blooming every couple of weeks. There's new flowers involved and more different types of bees and flies and butterflies out. So check out your local gardens. Again, people like getting their hands dirty for planting events. The same thing holds true for workshops and other activities. So we've done things like building bee boxes, little bee condos down here, with different organizations, either ourselves or with organizations like the Royal Botanical Gardens and Conservation Halton. We've done workshops where people could practice making a garden. So we had, stick-ons of different types of plants and different designs of different gardens, like was it a front garden, a back garden, shady or not. We've had tours of both our planting sites, such as the Eastview landfill, but also we're going like a farm tour and sharing information about pollinators on the already scheduled farm tour. Again, interactive activities, working with the city, doing a bee condo where kids can sort of fill the bee condo with sticks. We've had workshops about making pollinator-friendly paper, a sort of seed quilt paper. So lots of opportunities to get involved with the public. And again, that sort of hands-on activity, they really are attracted to more so than sometimes than just physical presentation. And again, tours can be great opportunities. A garden tour. Not everyone knows about these gardens. So having a tour is like, hey, everyone, let's go to the Gosling Pollinator Gardens and we're going to explore the area and talk about what's actually in the site. Because often they don't know. They don't know these gardens exist or don't know what's in the garden or don't feel that they can go into the gardens. So it's an opportunity to get them in and sort of talk to them in a kind of informal fashion. Another great way we've found to get plants in the hands of others is through plant sales. So the last number of years, we've been either hosting a plant sale ourselves or partnering with other organizations such as Nature Guelph to do these plant sales. We actually just finished our online plant sale that Nature Guelph just run last weekend or 2 weekends ago. Because we couldn't have an in-person plant sale like normally with COVID, we did it online. So Nature Guelph took donations from some of our gardens as well as people throughout the city and was able to sort of sell them online and people then picking them up at staggered times on the weekend. Seed swaps are another great way of sharing information. So it can be formal Seedy Saturday events, or again, just even with your neighbors and your friends, start sharing seeds with each other. So different people can try out different species, and even on the packaging, often we'll have a little note saying, hey, this is from Pollination Guelph, here's our website, here's our email for more information, check us out. Another way of talking to people is through these formal methods, such as presentations and conferences. So we've done very informal presentations all the way through to formal conferences. So we've had our big annual one-day pollination event, which we've been having 120, 130 people plus come out to. We've been giving presentations to local groups, whether they be gardening groups, Rotary Club, you name it, Naturalist Club meetings. We get people quite interested and engaged. Want to learn more about bees? Tell me about bees. Tell me how to garden for bees, or how to identify bees, or butterflies. People are very interested. Pollinators are very sort of hot topic right now, and so being able to get this information out to the public, having it open to whoever wants to come and learn, can be really make a difference. We've even done library talks. Getting to different areas in the community can make a big difference. A new way we're now trying out is YouTube videos. So not everyone is interested in going to sit down, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. to listen to talks, but they can spare a half hour to listen to a presentation, or even 5 minutes to watch a how-to video. So we're trying to post more of these sort of quick, short videos and kind of longer presentations on our YouTube page. And so again, like this presentation now is being recorded, so we'll be able to post that on our YouTube to watch later. The other YouTube videos are things like how to create a pollinator garden, how to prepare the soil, what plants do you put in there, that type of thing. A very important thing to do, though, is get others involved. You can't do everything yourself. Even if you have a great group of committed volunteers working with you, you need to involve other people. So they can be everything from organizations. For example, the City of Guelph has been helping us on numerous different projects. We've been involving different artists. This is Christina Kingsbury, who's been leading up our Remediate project at the Eastview landfill. Working with, again, local organizations like Naturalist Clubs. We have Nature Guelph Wildflower Society members who've been totally awesome in so many ways, particularly with their plant sale events. People who are just totally eager and excited about plants and pollinators and ecology, such as Trees for Guelph coordinator here in Guelph Moritz. And community members. So one of our project sites is the Food Forest, and just sort of south of Stone, Edinburgh, I think it's Ironwood area at University Village Park. We've had a group of core volunteers who are trying to do great things, create pollinator habitat, create food for people, and so we've been working with them to do this great planting event in that area. So again, involving others is really key. Don't do everything yourself. Maximize their talents. Everyone has their own talents, their own interests, their own abilities. And similar to the involving others, involve government. It's great to be able to plant flowers in your own front yard, but government can make a bigger difference. I'll talk about advocacy a bit later on, but it's important to have the government behind you. Everything from bylaws that some communities don't allow pollinator gardens on their boulevard or on their front yard. They're called messy yards rather than pollinator gardens or pollinator habitat. So we work with government on things like bylaws. We work with government on making bee city proclamations. So we have the city of Guelph is a bee city, and the mayor and the council are totally keen and excited to be involved. Even from day one with Pollination Guelph, we had our mayor at the time, Mayor Karen Farbridge, involved, and she was a really big asset to push to help us get permission to do pollinator plantings on city property, for instance. And you can go for provincial government, such as here in Ontario, we had public consultations with the Pollinator Health Action Plan and other meetings regarding pollinators. And even these people can then help maximize your outreach efforts. We had Pollination Guelph materials with the Ontario government at the Ontario Farm Show, or sorry, I think it was one of the farm shows. So great opportunities to get involved with different levels of government, and of course, advocacy I'll talk about coming up because that's really important as well. And here's advocacy. So again, reach out to whoever your counselors are, whether it's your municipal counselor, your MP, or your MPP, and talk to them about issues. It could be something as simple as, again, the bylaws in your community, or you want to have them designate a pollinator day. So this is International Pollinator Week this week. A number of mayors across North America were sort of doing proclamations that this is a pollinator day, this is pollinator week. But you can talk about bigger actions too. For example, the Pollinator Health Action Plan was a really big plan that the Ontario government was putting forward. I guess it was 2014 we started talking about it. I think 2016 it was sort of put into play. It was a great focus of advocacy at that time. We had groups from across Canada and chiming in, primarily Ontario, because it's Ontario legislation, to say, hey, this is important, which was great advocacy to get it done. But now we have the opposite problem, or kind of follow-up problem of that with the change in government. This great piece of legislation or proposed legislation kind of died out. So we've been now working the last couple of years to say, hey, since the Ontario government changed back in 2018, this action plan has disappeared. What's happening with it? Can we get some status or some updates on what's happening here? So we've been talking to the minister over MAFRA, as well as the MPP for our area, Mike Schreiner, who's also the Green Party leader, to try to see what we can do to make some progress on this. We've also been doing commenting on different proposals. For example, the more recent proposals of open for business. Let's get rid of all the Environmental Species and Endangered Species Act legislation, make it easier for businesses to operate. Let's get rid of all this restrictions for creating habitat. And so we don't believe those are the right step forwards for Ontario and for even the government of Canada. So we've been doing advocacy, we're writing letters and sending emails to these different people saying, hey, we need to make changes. And it's not something you have to do yourself. Well, you should do it yourself, but talk to others. So one letter is great, 10 letters is better, 100 letters is even better. So by maximizing people's efforts, you can try to make a difference. And again, as mentioned before, planting a single garden in your front yard is perfect, but if you can get 100 people planting gardens, all the better. And this applies the same thing with advocacy. But the more people writing and talking can make more of a difference. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. Same thing applies, unfortunately, sometimes with politics. But it's not just about complaining or calling for change. It's sometimes about saying, hey, you're doing a good job. For example, the city of Guelph was able to put pollinator language in the official plan. Basically says, I'm abridging, but thou shalt create pollinator habitat wherever possible. And so that is awesome. We want that to happen. We want to encourage those types of actions. Or the city of Guelph now becoming a bee city. We want to support that and encourage their actions. So try to think what's happening that's good, and reach out and say, hey, it's great, but hey, now that you're doing that step, let's take the next step and change X. The media is also another great way of engaging with people. So sometimes we have the problem of sort of preaching to the choir, we call it, that you're talking to all the gardeners who already know about native plants, they already know about pollinators. How do you reach new people? And sometimes these larger scale media can help you. For example, we've had radio interviews, everything from CFRU, a very local station, through to a local station like Rogers TV, through to like interviews with CTV and CBC. We've had newspaper coverage by the Guelph Mercury and Guelph Today. So all these things, and articles like, for example, Harris Smith Gardening Magazine. We even had a Canadian Geographic article about some of our work. So this type of thing can increase your reach, tenfold or 1,000-fold, and just different audiences. Most people may not tune into your YouTube channel or your website, but they may flip through the online news for Guelph Today, for instance. And as I mentioned earlier, a lot of these media love to cover local events. If something's happening that's really interesting, you found something different, or you're having a new planting, or you're doing maybe a bio blitz at your site, media will come and cover that, especially if you give them lots of notice, and sort of develop a relationship with them. If they know you want to talk about pollinators, they'll start coming to you to talk about pollinators. They definitely noticed over the years that, so especially a local media, like the Guelph Mercury and Guelph Today, keep coming to Pollination Guelph to ask questions like, hey, what are your thoughts on this? Or have you heard about this? Or, what's happening in sort of the bee world? And so when you make those connections with people, then you can have a more chance of having coverage later on. Signage is another way of reaching people that doesn't have to be at formal set time, someone up talking in front of you. It can be very informal education. So putting a sign up, whether it's on your front lawn, for example, we had these great pollinator habitat signs, and people are walking by and say, oh, pollinator habitat, oh, food, shelter, protection. This makes sense, and this is what's going on this property. So you can have very simple signs, just some sign like your community name or your organization, and like, hey, Pollination Guelph, creating habitat for pollinators, and our website address. Or you can get really involved interpretive designs. Interpretive signs that have information about everything from types of pollinators to what a pollinator patch is, how to create pollinator pathways, and where to go for more information. You can have massive signs, like this sign in the University Village Park. I'm not sure how it's maybe 10 feet tall, 8 feet tall, a lot taller than I am anyways, from top to bottom, so it stands out a lot more. Or you have the sort of smaller signs in your front lawn and everything in between. So signage, as people are walking by, especially for sites that are in very public areas. For example, this sign here at the top is along the Trans-Canada Trail, just off of Speedville. And this is a primary route for people from going from uptown to downtown, and it's passed by people, hundreds of people, thousands of people a day on bikes, walking by, pushing strollers, all sorts of different methods of transportation. And frequently I'm seeing people stop to read the signs. Even in the middle of winter, you'll see people's footprints going up to a sign to stand there and read. So these signs have been in there for a number of years in these sites, but people are still stopping to read them. So you don't know how many people are actually reading these signs, but I know it's a lot. So signage can help quite a bit. There are also what we call cues for care, that is say, hey, this is actually deliberate plantings, something is going on here. It may make people stop and look and say, oh, okay, that's interesting, and then look and read more, maybe even follow up on your website. Sometimes we have QR codes on our signage. Sometimes it's just a website address. And a QR code, if you're not familiar with it, it's kind of like a barcode you may see on something at the grocery store. But it's on the sign, and you just take your smartphone and sort of scans the code and automatically takes you to a website address. So you don't have to type in, pollinationguelph.ca/gardening. It brings you right to that site. And following on this idea of finding new audiences. So again, emails are great. People following you on Facebook and social media is a little bit better, but sometimes you need to reach beyond that. So some ways of deliberately reaching out to new groups. For example, we ran a photo contest for a number of years. And this photo contest was a way of reaching photographers. So not all photographers may be committed, native plant gardeners or lovers of pollinators, but they do love taking pictures. They may be taking pictures of plants or insects, or maybe encouraged to take pictures of plants and pollinators if you give them a bit of encouragement. We were getting great pickup with this contest. I know one time we actually had one of our tweets retweeted by Nikon Canada, and that had like 10,000 or 20,000 followers that we then got got in front of, kind of thing. People can then read, oh, Pollination Guelph, or oh, pollinators. Again, different organizations. We've been working with Guelph Hydro, now Electra, utilities. Again, different audiences, maybe power companies you may not think about right off the bat as being a good target, but hey, they have property. And even we started off just doing this little traffic island in the very center of their sort of parking lot. But we also been talking to see how can we create habitat across the rights of way. A lot of these utility companies have massive infrastructure or massive land that they own that they may maintain. By example, maybe cutting down the trees. Well, how can we create pollinator habitat perhaps along those rights of way? You can talk to different diversity groups or different religious or faith organizations. For example, we're working at this church up on Speedville. They're having a big sort of pollinator garden or pollinator event day, so we're able to talk to them and help them put in a pollinator-friendly garden. There's a collected rainwater, more drought tolerant. So again, the congregants then were able to learn about pollinators. Maybe they're not all familiar with pollinators beforehand, but after doing presentations and inviting them to come help do the planting, they got more interested and engaged. Schools love to do pollinator gardens. Sometimes it can be difficult for schools to do a garden because they're not there during the summertime. But if you get a committed group of teachers and parents, it can be possible. In banks, we had worked with TD Canada Trust actually have a display in the bank branch for over a week or two. Again, maybe you're reaching people on social media or through newspapers, but even a bank, most people go into a bank, or they did. Things are starting to shift, but people were still going to banks. So again, new people, informal displays, there's no one manning it. People could just come and walk and read as they're waiting in line. And even the hospice, working with different organizations that have property, you can work with them to create habitat or educate their staff and employees or the visitors about pollinators. One thing that's important, especially in this recent few weeks and months, is to be inclusive. Deliberately make sure that you are reaching different audiences. So I mentioned faith communities. You want to consider different religious groups, but different communities like ethnic communities. For example, we were working with different communities, like inviting people to come out to events. For example, we had an event at the Alderville Black Oak First Nations out near Coburg. We've had invited people to give presentations. We have different volunteers who are different, either Black or people of color. You want to chart Indigenous people. You want to chart profiling these people in your organization that show that, hey, these people are totally cool. They're doing amazing things. Different presentations. We had an individual up from Alderville Black Oak Savannah talking about the work they're doing. Try to be inclusive and sort of promote these faces and these people. And try to think also of your own activities. Are you doing anything or not doing anything to deliberately invite these people? Like maybe reach out to the local organizations in your community, invite people like free sponsorships or free admission to your symposia in our case. Try to feature more people in your advertising material. So maybe you're advertising an event, but it's all, people who are white and over 60. If you're advertising gardeners and that sort of age group, you may not be reaching the more younger demographics. So just try to be more inclusive, start thinking about this. There's lots of resources online. Try to be a voice for these other individuals as well. You don't have to create the information. There's lots of information out there. Just try to bring awareness up and start sharing that information with other people. Kind of be an ally. If you're a white like yourself, like myself, try to just raise other people's voices and do things like awareness training with yourself and with your colleagues to try to see what you can do to be more equal and inclusive. So this is our diversity statement we just posted online in the last week. So again, the last statement is, we're striving to be an inclusive organization that supports diversity and inclusion in science, technology, engineering, and math, and in outdoor spaces, regardless of age, gender, orientation, ethnicity, nationality, race, or religion. Basically, everyone is welcome. We particularly want to reach out to those that are minority groups, make them feel extra welcome. Another way of engaging and communicating is helping other people. And engaging with these groups that might just need a little bit of an assist. For instance, we've been working with different people down in the Hanlon Creek Industrial Park in the south part of Guelph, trying to promote pollinator habitat versus turf grass. So frequently you see these large commercial or industrial buildings or properties that are just acres or hectares of green lawn. So we're trying to promote the idea of turning that into, for example, a meadow that's more pollinator friendly. So we're working with the consulting company RWDI on Southgate Drive. I already mentioned Guelph Hydro down on Southgate Drive. We work with Denso Manufacturing to see if we can convince them to do pollinator habitat. And they're quite interested as well to do something on their site. So the idea is potentially we can have a pollinator pathway all along that industrial park area in Southgate Drive. So again, early days, we've been talking the last couple of years, but there is interest there. And so these types of things, just give them a bit of a prompt. Companies are interested, just need support in terms of, well, what do I do and how do I do it? And sometimes doing a promotion, well, hey, your neighbors 2 doors up are doing this, why don't you do it too, and make an even better or bigger impact. Similarly, we worked with the Ignatius Jesuit Center the last couple of years to help them create habitat. So they had the interest, the desire, they had the manpower, they were able to get things done, but they wanted some more help to what actually do I plant? What do I plant? How do I get the plants? And how do I get this all thing happening? It's great to have the idea, but to move the from idea to paper to on the ground, it sometimes takes a little bit of take a bit of extra help. So we worked with them to put a 1,300 square foot garden in September 2018. Lots of volunteers, lots of plants. We did more plantings last year, and they're hoping to do more this year. And COVID's kind of throwing a wrench into a lot of people's plans, but the plantings are looking really good. And again, Ignatius has a sign up there saying it's pollinator habitat. It's open to the public. You can go by at any time. So it's an example of kind of, you don't have to do the work yourself. We aren't maintaining this planting. We weren't responsible for buying the plants. We were sort of advising them and assisting. So we advertise it with our own channels, provide some of our own volunteers, but sort of give them a helping hand. Freebies are another great way of engaging with people. People love free things, whether it's something for the kids to play with. For example, kids can do coloring or make little caterpillar crafts. Maybe it's free plants. For example, we worked with the city of Guelph with the TD Friendly Environment funding that they got to have free tree giveaways. We had opportunities to give away seedlings. For example, these are aster young plants that we gave away. Seeds we talked about already, seeds for seed swaps that have information about your organization as well as what the plants are. People love those things. They always are so commonly picked up and just remarked upon. We've also had freebies like having events where people create a bee condo. So come to the event and we're providing sticks and something to put the sticks in that they can then take home and put up in their own gardens. Especially at outreach events, we find having hard copies of information is still really popular. As much as we're transitioning to a lot of paperless society, people still like to have something in their hand. And here's a list of plants I can take with me to the garden center to then find my native plant garden with. Or here's actually information on how to build that bee condo, or whatever the case may be. People love having a tangible in your hand piece of information. Or maybe it's a beautiful poster of bumblebees. They have those at some of our events. All these freebies draw people in, and they also give them to take home. So they don't forget about you as soon as they leave that event. It's something to remind themselves on. And something we actually find helpful is having little business cards done up. So maybe people don't want to have all that information. Some people do want that, but some people don't want as much information. They take the business card and then go home and at their leisure, go online and download the resources from their website. Funding, of course, is very important. To give those freebies away, you need to have funding. So we've been really fortunate about getting funding from different organizations in the past, and now we're actually very happy to be able to turn around and start giving back to the community and helping other groups get started. For example, we had a new community grant program just ran this past spring and over the winter. We had 8 different organizations, I believe, get funding. So we gave around a couple $1,000s worth of funding to these different groups, which will help them then in turn do their own outreach and their own engaging with the public. We will also provide support to Rare in Cambridge for their purchase of a new property out in the Aramosa region, and also to organizations like Ignatius Jesuit Center, as I mentioned, with some of their planting events. We're able to give them some extra funding to help them with their plantings. So again, you don't have to do everything yourself, but if you can help others, boost them up, perhaps with funding in this case, or in-kind support, maybe you have extra soil, maybe you have extra plants that you can help pass along, can also help these other organizations, which in then turn get the word out there to a greater audience across the region. I mentioned handouts. People love having something physical. Same idea applies for bigger things. For instance, little booklets or books. You don't have to give them away for free, but you can just make them available. For example, we've been selling these books by Heather Home, bees and pollinators and native plants, and people love them. Again, something to take home, full of pictures, full of information, but it's hard to get these books. So by selling them ourselves, at basically not much of a profit, more or less just marking up to make our ends meet and cover the costs. People can take them home. We have them at our events. We have other different guides that we sell or give away for donations. We're working with the city of Guelph. We've actually been able to give away some of their materials, so you don't have to create it yourself, but you can help give it out. So, for example, Healthy Landscapes visit. We've been able to give a number of those booklets out to people. That type of thing. We still have one page or quarter-page handouts, but then there's other bigger things as well. You don't even have to have them physical. Sometimes even sharing a link to something. So, for example, the Pollinator Health Action Plan I mentioned earlier. We're sharing that online. And just even the last couple of days, I was putting on social media a great new guide about creating pollinator habitat, particularly ones designed for the endangered rusty patch bumblebee. So share these resources, create them if you can, provide advice in other cases if you can, and just, again, everyone working together can make a difference. Research is another way to get people involved. Maybe you don't have expertise yourself in doing research, but maybe you have access to a site. Maybe you say, hey, university near me, or nonprofit organization near me, I've got this beautiful pollinator garden here, whether it's in the middle of the city that's just, equivalent of a front yard, or maybe it's a 60-hectare site. Or you're interested in coming to do research on this site. Perhaps look at the pollinators that are visiting the plants. Maybe you want to look at different plant varieties to see how well they do in really dry soils versus really wet soils. Maybe you're interested in looking at things like microclimatic effects on pollinators, or who knows, you have different ideas. You can encourage them to come to your site, or if you have the interest yourself, you can do the research. Research doesn't have to be formal scientific. You don't need to have a formally trained expert. You can engage what we call community scientists, or citizen scientists is another term for it. And this is where people can go with their smartphones or the camera, take pictures of any plant or pollinator in an area, send it to a program like iNaturalist or Bumblebee Watch, and it gets identified. So for instance, for iNaturalist is what we're working with Pollination Guelph, and anywhere in the city of Guelph, you can sort of see this box drawn. If you submit any picture of basically a plant or a pollinator, it automatically gets captured into what we call a project. So we can then monitor what's happening in the city, who are our pollinators in the city. We also have smaller projects reaching different planting sites we can then do observations on. So maybe you're walking by the hospice sites, maybe the Riverside Park. You're in Riverside Park in Guelph, you're walking by one of our gardens, snap a picture, submit it to iNaturalist through the app or through the website, and gives us data on what pollinators are there, what plants are blooming at that time. So there's lots of opportunities for research, and again, it can hit a new audience. And of course, you want to recognize your supporters, not only because they are supporting you and helping you get your efforts done, but they also can in turn help spread the news. So maybe perhaps we have some consulting companies working with us recently. We're recognizing them, they can also help support pollinators and spread the news. And especially again with social media, I sort of plug social media quite a bit, because you can do one tweet, you tag another organization, sort of say, hey, knock, 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 can you share this information? And they'll share it to those individuals. So I mentioned like Nikon, they sent their tweet out, hit thousands of people more than we could reach ourselves. Same thing applies for all these other organizations. And also by supporting them, you also can help more people learn about them and support their work so they can keep sponsoring you in turn. So a big thank you to all our sponsors over the year. We've had a number of different sponsors, including for our 2020 symposium that didn't actually happen. So big thank you to all our supporters. And it doesn't have to be big organizations providing funding to us. It can be surprise donations as well. We actually had a graphic sort of tattoo artist in the city who just sort of out of the blue decided she wanted to support pollinators and support Pollination Guelph, and so she donated a proceed of all her sales for tattoos to us. We just got a text, or I think it's Instagram post, like, hey, we'd love to donate this money to you. It's like, totally awesome, it's so cool. Same thing with the University of Guelph Sustainability Group. Just suddenly said, okay, we're going to put all proceeds from different activities, like reusable beeswax wraps, for instance, to you. And you can donate online securely through Canada Helps. This is individuals, whether it's $5 and $20, $100 or more. People are donating through Canada Helps. So it's really great to get all these surprise donations. It helps us keep our work going. It helps in turn help others keep their work going. It's important to listen to your partners and educate them. So the City of Guelph is an amazing partner with us. For example, they had a great thing here, creating a list of wildlife habitat gardens in the city. And it's actually now online. But the city's not quite there yet. So they created a sort of bee mascot in one of the parks downtown, but actually it was full of non-native plants, and none of them were pollinator friendly at all. So like, you're sort of there, recognize that you want to support bees and want to raise awareness of bees. This is a lost opportunity. Maybe we could have had a sign there showing, hey, this is a bee and here are the different plants that it feeds on. So listen to partners is important. We invited several of our partners to a brainstorming meeting we had. So we're trying to make plans for the year. We invited them and say, hey, what do you think we need to do? And what are your ideas? And what are you doing? How can we support you? So again, it all goes both ways. And just a fun thing, don't fear the rain, both the physical, sort of literal rain in terms of our plant sale last year. We had like downpours and thunderstorms, but it all worked out. I did an outreach event, just looking for pollinators. It poured, we didn't have any pollinators. We still talked about plants and talked about how the bees and insects are using the different habitats. And it can be the rain in the more metaphysical sense, or every organization runs into hurdles, you run into problems, maybe you're having issues with funding, maybe your plants all died. Everything happens. COVID-19 hit, everything got canceled or rearranged. So there always are bumps in the road, but don't fear them. You can work together and work through them and keep on doing great work. And again, you don't have to actually do this with a large organization. You can do it by yourself or with just a couple friends. Start local. Talk to your neighbors. Again, these pollinator habitat signs are great. We've heard reports from people saying, they had a garden there, but no one really said anything, and so suddenly put a sign out, and suddenly people start talking about, oh, you have a pollinator garden, oh, pollinator habitat, that's so neat. It can start engaging people. Or talk to people. I started a new garden myself this year, and people are kind of wondering, what are you doing? But as soon as I talk to them about saying, oh, I'm creating a pollinator habitat, and start talking about the plants I'm putting in there, then suddenly they're accepting of it. Again, taking action by putting the pollinator-friendly plants out there, by, again, advocating to your MPP or your local councillor, all these things can make a difference. Social media, if you're on social media, share information. You can be a single person, but share information than your other friends. Maybe not everyone on your list that are following you are keen pollinator people. Maybe it's an opportunity to start raising their awareness. And again, don't forget about traditional media, both for yourself to read, learn what's going on, but also to share the information about what you're doing. And don't forget to keep learning and networking with others. So there's always opportunities to learn. So by joining in webinars such as this or with other activities, reading online, keep learning and networking. And you keep moving everything forward for the whole field and the whole community. So we'll put a plug in here. I talked about these habitat signs we have. We are selling these different signs through our website, as well as the 2 different books I mentioned. So we're doing contactless pickup right now. So if you are in Guelph, you can contact us, do an e-transfer, and we can do porch pickup. Excuse me. If you're out of town, we can make arrangements. If you want to cover cost of shipping, for instance, we can probably work that out. But yeah, so these are great ways to educate yourself and others. Also put a plug in, we're always happy to get donations, whether it's those cash donations or things like plants, because we always have operating costs, even our insurance. We have insurance for liability for our activities and also for our board. But there's costs for hosting websites and doing some of the outreach events. So again, if you want to donate online, there's a link on our website through Canada Helps. You can mail us or do an e-transfer. That's an option. So think about it if you're able to. We're happy to take donations. We're also looking for donations of time. If you have time, we'd love to talk to you about how you can get involved with our organization. So one of the big things we do is maintaining our planting events, maintaining our gardens, as well as planting events. So there's daytime and evening opportunities for that. So reach out if you're interested. Again, we have different sites throughout the city of Guelph. We're also looking for people to help with our displays. So again, we do dozens of displays every year. So basically come along. For example, this picture is down at the Cambridge Butterfly Festival last summer. You don't need to have any prior knowledge. We'll sort of train you. You can listen to our spiels, and then you can come along and learn and talk to people too. If you're interested in giving presentations or helping with social media, if you're interested in doing like 1 post a month, we'd be happy to have you involved in helping us out with that. We're trying to update our outreach materials. So if you're interested and have the knowledge or graphic design, you don't even know anything about pollinators, we make it look pretty. We're interested in talking to you. We're always looking for people to join our board of directors. So again, give us a shout by email. We're happy to chat about what skills you have to contribute and how we can sort of work things out that way. So just shoot us an email for more information. And that kind of wraps up my kind of formal presentation. Hope you got some food for thought there. It was a bit longer than I thought actually. But yeah, so happy to have any questions now. So if you hit any questions, add them to the chat box on the side. I haven't had an opportunity to look at that, but if any hits any questions, join in. So just go in the chat box. I don't see any questions right now, but if you have any questions or anything you want to contribute, maybe you found something that worked well for your organization, for yourself, feel free to just chime in on the chat box there. Since we only have a few people here, if you do want to prefer to sort of chat, all right. I have to read the chat box now. Jean just sent me a question that we sent into our email before the event, and they're asking, what's the current status of the neonicotinoids in Ontario? And is it true that some were prohibited and substituted with other neonics that were not illegal? So yes, that's neonics were the pesticides. It made a lot of headlines a number of years ago, not that number of years ago, because although we thought they were great, they were applied to a seed usually and put in the ground, so it involved less spraying above ground. We thought it was good for pollinators. So again, less spraying above ground, it's less impacts. But we thought, hey, this is good. But now we're realizing that it's actually moving, the pesticides moving from the seed into the plant and moving the way up the plant into the plant tissues and even into the pollen and nectar. So there's issues with that. And there's also issues then when they're planting these seeds, that sometimes the little seed coating would break off and get sort of blown out into the air and also land on the flowers. And so pollinators are become sort of contaminated that way or impacted that way. So the Ontario government, amongst many other organizations and municipalities and provinces and states, jurisdictions, work to try to legislate this to reduce the use. So this part of this Ontario Health Action Plan I mentioned earlier in the presentation, a big part of it was trying to reduce usage by 80% in the province. And so this question is like, is that still happening? What's going on? And have we shifted to perhaps worse or different pesticides? So I'm not sure what the most up-to-date information is on that. For the most part, the Pollinator Health Action Plan has kind of died away. The legislation, I believe, is in place, but last fall there was a push to decrease registration or regulation. So I believe now you only have to take an IPM, Integrated Pest Management course once, fill out one kind of pest assessment for your farm and submit that, and it's pretty much all you have to do. So you just have to say that yes, there's a problem and you can use it. So I'm concerned that's not actually decreasing usage that much. I heard sort of informally that they hadn't actually decreased usage, although the government wanted 80% decrease. It was only like maybe 20% decrease or so, but I'm not quite sure in the exact numbers. So in terms of other chemicals being used, yes, there's now being a shift away from some pesticides to others, that some are just as bad, or we don't know the impacts. They know if imidacloprid was a commonly used neonicotinoid, but now it's sort of being phased out. And people are shifting to use other ones, like clothianidin still being used quite a bit. I think there's a push to try to ban it, but it's just sort of this race against time, in a sense, by pesticide companies, and even farmers, to a sense, that keep trying to find new ways of tackling pest problems. We're trying to find something that's not bad, is more trouble than we think sometimes. So hopefully that answers the person's question. It's something we can look into and update on our website. If anyone else has any questions, you can feel free to post in the chat box there. Another question is about, seeing coming into privately, was about how is Pollination Guelph reaching out to developers of housing, for example, condos or townhouses, to encourage them to include pollinator needs when they're designing their outdoor green spaces? So that's a great question. Something we've been working towards a little bit and trying to get more people creating habitat. So it's great for people individually to create gardens, but if you're in a condo and don't have your own property, or a townhouse situation, too often these are all standard foundation plantings of Spirea and turf grass, which is not very pollinator friendly. So we're not doing a whole lot of work directly with these developers ourselves, but we're working with the city to try to change the requirements. So the city tells the developers, every time you build a new house, you need to put so much landscaping in place, and it can suggest different plantings. So the city now has more native species on their planting list for these developers to choose from. We're trying to push to create more pollinator habitat. We're also trying to encourage these developers to make it more pollinator friendly, which is an asset. It's almost like a selling aspect. I think even with our Guelph Pollinator Park, for instance, we had people living nearby, filling their houses, promoting the fact, hey, this is near pollinator habitat. Something like that could help. Certainly with landscapers, people that don't want to do their own gardening, whether they're residential or again, more businesses. We work with landscapers more indirectly, we have several different landscapers in the city. For example, Fiona Rentoul and Associates, who's been a supporter in past years, and in our garden up near Orangeville, also been great supporters in past. They are doing good landscaping, so we're trying to support them. And again, talking about supporting sponsors, helping refer people to these organizations. And then we can start pointing. One great thing is to point to gardens. If landscapers will do what you want to a certain extent. So if you say, hey, I want native plants, then they will go put native plants in. You may need to help them out a bit, but even by pointing them to websites such as ours, you can get more of that information out there. Just our new question Stacy just sent in. Is wondering what the impacts of cultivation in my garden. Can use a hand tool to lightly ruffle the surface when weeding, or this harm the ground nesting bees? So yes, we also have the joke, or it's in a way serious answer of you don't have to do any hoeing. Forget about hoeing, forget about weeding with your gardens because you don't want to disturb the native bees. So if you don't want to do gardening, don't bother, or weeding, don't worry about the weeds. But of course, you don't want to let all weeds go wild. So it's sort of a trade-off between disturbing habitat versus keeping your garden as you want it. I think lightly scuffling is fine. If you pull the weeds out, all the better, be less disturbing. Sometimes it's a case of just looking to see if you see habitat, or do you see any signs of like nest entrances? Have you seen bees coming and going from that area? If you see bees coming and going from that specific area, maybe don't disturb it. If you do need to disturb it, do maybe evening gardening. So most of the native bees that nest in the soil are more active during the day and aren't as active in the evening. So in that case, you can, they'll be back in their burrows. If you happen to disturb their nest entrances, they can dig their way back out again the next day when they're more active. Whereas it's harder for them to find their hole again if it's been disturbed during the course of the day. So if you have any other questions, feel free to throw them in the chat box there. Again, we'll post this to YouTube, the video, and hopefully have a sort of pollination webinar series this fall. Stacey says, thanks, she's seen signs of those burrows before. It's really neat seeing the ground nesting bees. Some of them actually nest in aggregation, so there's lots of them in a certain area. You can see, for example, on a trail near my house, literally probably 1,000 bees or more all in the same area, nesting within a few square meters or so. There are thousands of native bees nesting there. You can see little, almost like ant hills. You can see them nesting there. Another question just come through to me. Have you approached the city to reduce mowing along areas maintained by the city? We have a little bit talking to the city, trying to reduce the mowing in certain areas, and it's starting to work in some areas. For example, along the Aramosa River and the Speed River, they're starting to do less mowing. Some of this is for reducing mowing in general. Some of it is to increase habitat. So we are actually talking to them. It's difficult to talk to the city in some cases because although, for example, the higher ups are quite on board, people in between layers are on board with, for example, pollinator habitat, it doesn't always make it down to the people on the ground who are doing the mowing. We've sometimes even had cases of, pollinator habitat being, cut down accidentally, or things like that. Or you weren't supposed to mow in an area because you're trying to naturalize it and it got mowed because there was someone on the, a summer student or a summer tech doing the work who didn't get the message or thought they're doing a good thing and weren't. So we have talked to them, and it's definitely something we're trying to increase. Similarly with roadside plantings throughout Guelph and the province. And reducing mowing is one thing, but also doing physical plantings of, for example, doing a wildflower seed mixture can be more beneficial than just turf or just sort of wild grasses. So we're trying to think of all the millions of kilometers of roads in Ontario and other provinces. We try creating more habitat there and work as these little corridors for the pollinators to get from point A to point B. Stacey has bumblebees living in her garage door. She wants to know if they're common eastern. I need to see a picture, Stacey. Switch to bumblebewatch.org. Bumblebees have different, or I'll rephrase it actually, Stacey. If it's the trim of your garage door, if they're drilling little holes into the trim, or it's like they're drilling like into the wood, like a straight hole in, then actually it's probably carpenter bees. They look like common eastern bumblebees. They're a big bumblebee looking like thing. You look at their abdomen, kind of their back or their bum area, it's very shiny black, and those are carpenter bees, not bumblebees. The bumblebees are very fuzzy. They don't have a shiny bum, whereas carpenter bees have a shiny bum. Two people talking about ticks. Is there conflict with kind of the mowing and sort of wild plantings and ticks? And do we need to wear, slacks or knee socks to avoid ticks? It's not much of a conflict. Ticks are going to be around anyways. If you want to keep them away from your house, perhaps mow an area close to your house. But also not in all these cases, we're still roadsides. People are going to be walking along the roadsides. We're not concerned about ticks being picked up by people walking along the roadside. So I'm not too concerned that way. in terms of wearing slacks and knee socks, unfortunately, becoming that case now, whether you're, PEI or Ontario or BC, ticks are becoming more common. And even in Southern Ontario, it used to be just, for example, say Long Point, there are really big tick zones, but now even in Guelph we're having ticks. Push Flint is actually a big tick hot zone, which is just south of Guelph. So really, if you're going to be out, especially more naturalized wildflower areas, if you're walking through tall grass, yeah, I'd be wearing socks and shoes and have my socks put up over top of my pants. Even even in a mowed backyard, you could have potential of getting ticks with birds, bringing things in, and other wildlife bringing things in. So yes, unfortunately, ticks are an issue. Increasingly, maybe not even in Northern Ontario. I think Thunder Bay is starting to have problems with ticks. So unfortunately, yes, but it doesn't have to stop pollinator-friendly gardening. In terms of kids are back in school, can you have different classes come and they can persuade parents and grandparents to encourage pollinator areas? For sure. Kids can sometimes be great advocates. Kids are so excited and so easily enthused. They want to take things home to their parents. And then a lot of times kids are educating parents. Parents know a lot of things, but not everything. So again, having kids come home with information can help parents. Maybe push them over that edge of doing something. The kid says, hey, let's go on a pollinator-friendly plant, or I want to take a picture of a bumblebee and submit it to the website. That can make a big difference and get parents and grandparents involved for sure. Any other questions, you can throw them in the chat box there. You can also email us, pollinationguelph@gmail.com if you have questions. Social media, as I keep saying, you can reach out to us that way. Email, if you have our email addresses, like my email address isn't on this slide up, or you can find it if you look for it. If there's no more questions, we can wrap things up. So thank you everyone for tuning in with us for my sort of first ever webinar, for first ever Pollination Guelph webinar. So hopefully this give you a bit of a taste about what you can do to help pollinators, kind of a case of what we're doing. If you want to check out YouTube, I post a presentation as well about creating habitat for pollinators, planting for pollinators, as well as one about what Pollination Guelph is doing. So every year at our pollination symposium, we usually give a presentation about what do we do the previous year, what we plan to do the next year. So I have a presentation online now. It was basically that presentation. I just record it, such as I'm doing now. So if you want to check out what we did last year, what we're doing this year, check out our YouTube channel to see that video. But yeah, so thank you everyone for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it, and keep up the great work. Keep up great pollinator habitat outreach work and education and habitat creation and all the rest. Great, thank you everyone.